chess lovers and fellow Kenyans. How are you? So a few months ago and a year ago, that is 2024, we witnessed some major events here in Kenya, especially as regards to the protests. And so I thought it was also necessary to describe the same events in the form of a chess game. So to the chess lovers in the house and any other person who's just interested in seeing how this plays out, you're most welcome to Hands at Play. And today we shall be dealing with political chess. And today, of course, on our board, it's set in Nairobi. The white side representing the Kenyan Gen Zs, who are basically the opposition, the young people who are bold, resilient. They call themselves fearless, leaderless, and tribeless. So while on the other side that you can see the red pieces here represents the government as led by the President, William Ruto. And this is not just a theory, but a retelling of the protests of 2024 and 2025, where thousands of young Kenyans clashed to the authority over taxation, corruption, freedom, and of course, not forgetting to mention unemployment. And of course, there are many other issues that the Gen Zs were protesting against. So let's see how this plays out on the chessboard. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. So to start us off, the white pawn, remember the white here represents the Gen Zs, or rather the opposition, the people who are protesting against the government, which is the red here. So the first move, as we witnessed, was a bold move by the Gen Zs in June of 2024, and they were protesting against. They were protesting as they reject the finance bill. Their major call was to reject the finance bill, which was of course rejecting the new taxes that had been introduced. And so the pawn will move from E2 to E4. Basically, that is the move that Gen Zs are making, a bold move of protesting against the overtaxation as highlighted in the finance bill of 2024. They were marching along Moi Avenue and Kenyatta Avenue with placards calling to the rejection of the finance bill 2024. And on seeing that, of course, the state did not keep quiet, but it responded instantly. And the response was somewhat aggressive, because we witnessed tear gas filling the air and police in riot gear were marching out in official statements of trying to dismiss the protesters as unruly. So the pawn on E7 is going to move to E5, a move that shows that the government is matching its opponent step by step. There was no dialogue, there was no room for dialogue, but the government responded with force. So you can see that the government here is facing the Gen Zs. But another step forward again on the side of the opposition, we see that there is, because of the violence that is erupted, we see medics coming to their rescue. We have people like lawyers like Nelson Harvey and Martha Karua who lend their voices online. And we see also decentralization and the kind of organization that goes on X and TikTok, coordinating the efforts of the Gen Zs. So we see this move will be represented by the knight on G1 moving to F3 here, a show of solidarity and coordination among the opposition. They are not just loud, but they are also tactical. And seeing this, the government does not remain silent, and instead it deploys courts and threats. So you're going to see a move from F8 to C5. Here, the government moves to try and curb this move by the Gen Zs, and arrests are made from content creators like Gabia CEO, people who are arrested, to activists who are like streaming on TikTok. So in this case, the legal muscle becomes a weapon. The state uses the court to try and disarm the youth, try and bring legal action against those people that are protesting. So that move is a bold move from the government, but the youth bishop also swings out, aiming that directly on the Reds' heart. So the protesters surround the government, the parliament itself, chanting outside the gates. You see influencers like Hanifa Adan and Boniface Mwangi amplify their presence and making the government feel the heat from every angle. So in this case, you're going to see F1 moving to C4. That is a move of the Gen Zs. This one will move from here all the way to this point. A bold move by the Gen Zs as they were occupying the parliament in 2024 in protests of reject the finance bill. And the state braces itself and brings up more defenses. We see heavily armed police guard on Parliament Road. We see armored trucks. We see blocked streets, and even curfews. There were rumors of curfews being enforced. And just like this move of D7, D7 to D6 is the government which is a slow and heavy reinforcement that was meant to kind of push, or rather stop the push of the Gen Zs toward the parliament. But the Gen Zs do not relent. I mean, they don't give up. So we see this queen here will be moves to E2, which is a move by the Gen Zs on social media. I'll choose to call that they were using social media, especially X and TikTok, and some of them were recording videos of brutal arrests. We could see clips of protesters being shot at in the streets, and hashtags like Reject Finance Bill 2024. They were trending even worldwide. This was the full power of digital activism that had been unleashed. So the Gen Zs had made a very bold move against the government, that while arrests were being conducted on ground, online, they were very active, advocating for change, pushing the hashtags, reject the finance bill, and so on. But the government still did not keep quiet. It brings in their experience. We see seasoned ministers and loyal MPs and those hardened security chiefs. One in case being the current deputy president, Dr. Kithure Kindiki. Then he was the CS for Interior. He insisted that protests will not be able to topple the state. So you can see that this move they were seeing is like a move of the Gen Zs to try and topple the government. So the Black Knight in this case will present that, whereby the Black Knight moves from G8 all the way to f6. That's a bold move by the government trying to quench the power and the momentum of the Gen Zs. We see the CS Interior then, Kithure Kindiki, insisting that the protests will not topple the government. So they were trying to protect the government in some awkward and weird, unpredictable moves. So the game is still on, and the pawns here are going to move steadily. We see the Gen Zs, which is a movement that was building support. We could see churches offering safe spaces to musicians like Giuliani composing protest anthems. So the movement is slow, but it cements the cause. And in this case, we're going to represent that move with the D2 moving to D3. That is a move by the Gen Zs, a show of solidarity that indeed we are still on course. So seeing that bold move, the government here decides to hide behind its fortress, and President Ruto then remains in State House, safe behind his loyal security, leaving the surrogates to speak for him, of course. So he castles. So we are going to see him move from E8 here to G8. It's a castling move, showing that he's retreating, but not surrendering. Retreating, but not surrendering. And the youth also reinforce their pace. We see more students from UON and Kenyatta University joining the movement. WhatsApp groups share the survival tips, and medics stock up bandages. They are preparing for a drawn-out fight. So we see this move will be represented by C2 moving to C3. Remember, this is just a pawn. A C2 here moves to C3. A move by the Gen Zs showing solidarity. So they are trying to help each other on how to maybe quench or rather prevent them from choking on the tear gas that has been thrown all over. They are telling them of the safe routes to use. They are advising their fellow comrades on how to stay safe and avoid maybe clashing with the police and being caught or being arrested. So another move, the state lashes out on the flank. S7 is going to move to F5. So the state here being represented by red, of course, it lashes out. Curfews are announced in some towns. We see internet shutdowns that evening of June 2024. You remember there was some shutdown of internet where they claimed that the cables in the sea had been eaten. It was an interesting one. And so this move is a move by the government to remind everyone that we can still stretch this fight anywhere if you decide so. They had decided that if you decided this is how you're going to go, let us go now hard on you. And the youth reply too, and in solidarity we see that the protests erupt in Kisumu, in Mombasa, in Eldoret, at major towns. So the movement is no longer a Nairobi story, but a national movement. And in this case, we're going to see A2 move to F4. So A2 will move to F4. That's a bold move by the Gen Zs, trying to tell the government, yes, you've decided to slow the internet for us, you've decided to arrest our fellow comrades, and some have even died in the process. May the Lord rest their souls in peace. So the Gen Zs decide that game is game. And we see protests erupt in major towns, Eldoret, Mombasa, Nairobi, Kisumu. They join in the fight. And the police and the military strengthen their roadblocks, seeing that people have come out in solidarity. They build their barriers and fortify key government installations, because we see that they're preparing for a very long battle. And so we will represent that move with a C7 moving to a C6. So C7 here, we move to that point. That's like the government is putting up reinforcements because the Gen Zs have decided to come out. So the government is putting up reinforcements. And meanwhile, on the Gen Z sides, the youth here decide to also secure themselves. We see them also coming up with encrypted ways of communication and chatting. We see coded languages online, and we see safer coordination even in the face of static surveillance. Remember, there was a rumor of the government trying to abduct and arrest people, especially those who are key or rather ringleaders in the organization of the protests. So this castling here, from the point where the king side of the youth here, the white side, moving from E1 here to E1 to E1 to G1 is a castling move where the Gen Zs also try and reinforce themselves, and they are saying that we will do everything possible to stay safe. So, but the government also lines up heavy machinery. We see the parliament pushing the budget allocation through despite protests, and new laws appear aimed at criminalizing dissent. So the rook here is on the file, ready to strike. So we see the move here by the government, F8 to E8. F8 to E8. The government decides that, okay, you people are protesting, but nevertheless, we are going to move on despite the noise. Keep making noise, but we're going to push so that these laws are indeed passed in the parliament. They don't care. The youth, with their tactical moves now, we see live streamers, then like people like Gabriel Oguda and other content creators, they shifted to documenting the arrests and even the torture cases. And the pressure remains, but now the target is visibility and exposure. So the bishop on the youth side, the opposition, will be moving from C4 to B3. So I'm going to move this bishop from C4 to B3. That is that point. It's a tactical move by the youth, whereby they are shifting to documenting the arrests. So if you see anybody disappearing, because people started disappearing, people are being abducted, so they decided to document those arrests, ensure that those arrests are being recorded, and even those that are being tortured, so that we can expose them. So the state also is ready. In this case, the police shields the different places. We see every junction that is being guarded. They are taking keen measures to ensure that they suppress the movement. So this will be represented by the move from H7 to H6 here. And then the documentation goes on. Remember, the Gen Zs are recording the arrests and so on. So lawyers and journalists compile these evidences, and stories of abductions and torture surface in the international outlets. You see them being highlighted even by BBC. The bishop cuts long, ready to challenge the power's narrative. So bishop here in C1 will move to E3. The bishop here move to C1 to E3, which is that. It's a bold move by the youth, documenting everything. We see lawyers coming out, defending those that have been arrested. Journalists compile evidences. And these tortures that have been happening are also highlighted by popular international media stations. So meanwhile, the government also strikes back and tries to silence voices. Some journalists are even threatened, and activists are abducted. And just like a capture, the state takes a piece. The state here will take a piece of the board. So I'm going to use the black bishop. Will take on is from c5 to e3. The white, okay, this is not really the black bishop. It's actually the government here on c5 taking on e3, which is this. So that move here is a move of the government abducting activists, content creators, and some of the journalists are being abducted. So seeing that, we see videos leaking and testimonies also flooding online spaces, because what the state tries to erase, the youth also re-upload tenfold, and the narrative slips back into the people's hands. So this queen here makes a bold move from e2 to e3, taking on the government. So yes, we agree that the government is abducting and taking over. The government is trying to silence the people, but then we are not going to keep quiet. So that move by the queen here represents the Gen Z who try and continue to expose the government. In this case, as people are being abducted, they expose those videos to show that we are not going to stay silent in the face of injustice. So another move, we see the government bringing in reinforcements. Loyal MPs, allies, and even county commissioners line up and try to defend the government policy. So it was a move to try and paint the government as being good in a time when the government was being stoned and looked at as being evil for abducting people. We could see politicians coming out and defending the government. One vocal MP being Kimani Ichung'wah. So this move by the politicians is going to be represented by the knight here, moving from b8 to d7 here. That's a move by the politicians trying to defend the government. But then the fresh forces join in, and we see more students, more workers, and even the clergy in some towns. And the movement grows broader and hard to ignore. You could see some clergy condemning these abductions and so on, and the arrests. They were trying to defend the movement and the people as they call for justice. So the white knight also moves from b1 to d1. Reason? No, it moves from b1 to d2, not d1. Sorry. Yes. So that's a move by the Gen Zs and the movement of the youth protesting and saying the support. We have the support. The clergy are coming out to support the Gen Zs, and of course it was something that could not be ignored. But the government again also centralizes. We see official speeches being made, especially on state televisions, and President Ruto himself insists that the finance bill is non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable, and that Kenya has to pay its debts. He was supporting the fact that we are doing this because of this and this. The government needs to pay its debt, so there is no reason for you people to vent online and say that, the government here is going to be represented by a move from d8 to e7, e8 to e7. That is the move by the government. They're saying that, yeah, we are seeing and we are noticing that people are complaining, but we have debts to pay as a nation. So the youth also step onto the main line, and petitions are filed in court demanding for the release of their fellow comrades. Demands, they have very huge demands of even the finance bill being withdrawn. Their eyes are still on the parliament. So in this move, we are going to see the Gen Z still hold on to the fact that they need to be heard, and they need to ensure that they are heard. So that is the move by the Gen Zs. They are saying, yeah, we see, but we are going to push to the end. The state also protecting the president decide that they are going to bring together all institutions. We see the judiciary coming together with the parliament. We see also the police, which of course is guarding the regime and its survivors. So they are the people that have been used to quench, or rather to quell, the protests. So that would be presented by the move D7 to F8. Let me use D7 to F8. So that is move there. That's the regime trying to survive, and they are trying to protect the government as much as possible. So this move here from D7 to F8 is a move in support of the government by the judiciary, the police, and even the parliament represented by our politicians, the MPs. There's then a massive breakthrough. Remember very well, a year later, during the Sabasaba protests of 2025, the protests were massive from Uhuru Park to Kisumu. There were major towns even in Mombasa, all over Eldoret. We could see there were protests in Embu, and the protests were indeed massive. The ground was literally shaking at the chance for a change. So this is a move that is presented by D3 to D4. D3 to D4. This is Sabasaba now. The Gen Zs are still strong and standing and demanding for a change. But the government responds. Things like we see digital propaganda and even cyber surveillance, and an army of online propagandists that people are defending the government popularly, or known as propagandists. And this move of the government from F8 to G6 is a move of telling the youth that whatever you do, just know that we are watching, we will be following. So I would like to say that there's no checkmate yet, because the youth still hold momentum, and the government, of course, holding the institutions. We have a moment of tension. So this is only the opening chapter of the Kenyan political chess game. And in the next episode, we'll dive deeper into the storming of parliament, the abductions, and how we see how this continues heating up. So this game is far from over, and I hope that you people enjoy it so far. Stay tuned for episode 2. Thank you.